The cornerback room for the Carolina Panthers is easily one of the most important positions in 2025 for this team, as there's so many holes still on defense. And this is one of the positions on the team in 2025 with continuity. This position is the exact same from last season, and there's a lot of room for growth with the young guys behind Jaycee Horn, one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. So in this video, I'm going to just break down the entire position as a whole and also rank each player in this position 1 through 4, starting with the entire room as a whole. Last season, we had one of the worst defenses in NFL history. You brought back the same room on one of the worst defenses in NFL history. How is that going to work out? How are you going to improve this room enough to make an improvement and make the defense much better, not below average? Because this is one of the positions on defense that needs to take a leap and be consistent in order for the defense to not be below average like it was last year. And I think that's the biggest thing when you look at this room is consistency. Last year, obviously, Jaycee Horn, I really think he polished his game to its fullest extent last year. Obviously, just being a straight corner, lockdown corner, was not as good last year as it was in years past. But why was that? Because teams knew guys behind him like Mike Jackson, very inconsistent corner, Shaw Smith-Wade, a rookie, they could go after them more and not have to go after Jaycee Horn because they knew we had flaws next to him, right? So that's why he only had one interception. That's why he was not able to really be that flashy lockdown corner like he's been in the past because of those reasons. But I really feel like he was able to bring his game together overall last year as a cornerback in tackling, leadership, and everything that comes with being a corner. So I think my biggest thing for this room is obviously, as I've stated, consistency and development. Mike Jackson, very inconsistent last year. When he was on, he was on. When he wasn't, he wasn't. He needs to be consistent week to week. This duo was top 15 last year in passes defense, meaning both players, Mike and JC. JC was top 10. Mike was top 15 in passes defensed all year long. So we had a decent duo in that sense, right? Mike Jackson had a lot of passes defensed in a lot of key moments last year. Shaw Smith-Wade needs to be in training camp, in preseason, and prove himself right away, because if he doesn't, I have concerns, because after him, there's really nobody else. Even with Shamar and a Caleb Evans, they haven't been really NFL players. Shaw last year as a rookie played 14 games last year and started 4 games. So you're only 3 players deep really in this room. Okay. I have concerns about this position, but I think there's potential as well. So obviously now with the player rankings, the number 1 player at this position in this room is obviously Jaycee Horn. Last season was his first year in his career. He played over 15 games. Okay, obviously the biggest thing that we have criticized Jaycee Horn for being a Carolina Panther has been his availability. But that was not a thing last year. He played 15 games and started off 15 games last year. Had 49 total tackles, a career high, over 10 back from 2022. Had 5 tackles for loss, a career high. Had 2 sacks, a career high. Again, which is why I mentioned he really polished his overall game as a cornerback last year. Whenever people like to say, bring up his stats as a corner and all that, he was still top 5 in every statistical number as a lockdown corner last year. And yet people like to bring his grade down, bring him not being a top corner in the NFL down because he was on one of the worst defenses. Okay, when you turn the film on, you watch Jaycee Horn play last year on Sundays. He was the only stable piece to this defense last year. And we were so bad on defense. I think a lot of y'all Panther fans know how bad we were on defense last year. He was the only real stable piece last year, week to week. Could tackle consistently, could make big plays consistently. Okay, whenever teams threw at him, they couldn't throw at him consistently because they know he would lock down his receiver. I just think the biggest thing for me also is availability still. I think if he can play much as 15 games this upcoming season, he's going to prove again why he's one of the best corners. And I think if you get consistency from the back end with Mike Jackson, with Shaw Smith-Wade, and the young guys behind him, you're going to be able to see his game take another leap, because you're going to be able to see him get more than just 1 interception last year, obviously, which is not what you're hoping for. Okay, because in 2022, when he played 13 games, he had 3 picks. Last year, only had 1 and played 15. Again, I kind of broke down why that was the case. It's not really all his fault. He did what he could. He polished his game as one of the best corners in the league already. Last season, being on one of the worst defenses in the NFL, he did what he could. Okay, but he has to take that step again and really make his game all around this year, which he needs to do. Bringing Derrick Brown back, having an actual pass rush now on the interior, on the outside. Teams are going to have to throw at Jaycee Horn if they have to. Okay, like if Mike is doing his thing on the outside, teams are going to have to throw up JC a little more. They don't have to wait and say, okay, I'm just not going to look at JC because I don't want to throw at him. If the pass rush is there, which I think it will be a little bit more than it was last year, team might have to throw at JC a little more, which opens up opportunities like interceptions, passes defensed. Jaycee Horn, man, in 2024 was just one of the most stable pieces on this team last year, on defense specifically. He was the biggest reason why the defense on certain weeks was good. and was decent because Jaycee Horn was that stable piece, and teams just did not want to throw at him. And I think also it's worth to mention, how is Ajay Rivera going to use him? Obviously, he doesn't shadow. Ajay Rivera likes to move him from different receivers. I don't like that idea because you don't have a lockdown number two corner. You have a inconsistent number two corner. So I would prefer Ajay Rivera to, keep him on the best receiver week to week. That is not what Ajay Rivera likes to do, and we have to accept it as fans, okay? All we have to know is that whoever JC's on, we're good. What are my stat line predictions for Jaycee Horn, my number one corner in this room? 70 tackles, 3 interceptions, and 5 TFLs once again. So very, very similar stat line to last year. Just I think he's going to go up on interceptions more. Obviously, I don't think one is going to do it. I think he's going to make more because teams are going to have to throw the ball faster because we're going to have a better pass rush. Plus, I think Sean Smith-Wade is going to take that lead. As I'm going to mention here when I go over him in my ranking, that's my final stat line prediction for JC. It's going to be 70 tackles, 3 picks, and 5 TFLs in 2025. Even though if we're playing a team that has a number one receiver, JC's not on him, that's obviously going to suck, but we just have to put our faith in the number two corner, which is Mike Jackson. As I mentioned, he is the biggest variable to this entire room because last season he played and started all 17 games, so availability is not an issue at all for Mike Jackson. But I think the biggest thing for me is consistency, as I mentioned. 1 week, he's making the biggest coverage play of the season against the Cardinals, and next week, he's giving a bunch of yards. Week to week thing for Mike Jackson. He needs to be week to week a good number two corner. He cannot be inconsistent because if you're inconsistent, you're just making it hard on JC, especially for going against a team that has 2 great receivers. You're just making it harder for the entire defense if you're Mike Jackson. So he needs to be consistent, which he was not last year. I don't think he was, but he had 19 pass defense last year, which is a career high. He has 76 tackles, another career high. But yes, Mike Jackson is the biggest variable in this room because if he's good and he's consistent week to week, this defense can be average. Okay. You have 2 corners to worry about every Sunday if Mike Jackson becomes truly consistent and that consistent number 2 corner next to JC. But if he's still inconsistent again this upcoming season, it could get tough. It could get hard for the defense overall because, yes, even if the pass rush is getting to him, if you're going up against 2 good receivers in this position in 2025, that Sunday, it could just get tricky, man. It could get tough. It could get hard for the defense to maintain itself. So what is my stat line prediction for Mike Jackson in 2025? I think he's going to have 65 total tackles, 2 TFLs, and 1 interception. So I think he's going to have a little bit less than JC, obviously, in everything, but I think he's going to be a little more consistent than he was last year because we know even when he's on, he's inconsistent. When he's on a week, he's going to make plays. So I think that's where you get the 1 interception, 65 tackles, 3 TFLs from Mike Jackson in 2025. My number 3 player at this position for the Carolina Panthers is obviously Sean Smith-Wade, the second year nickel back. Last year, he was primarily a starter. Okay, he said he started 4 games, but he was a big piece last year in this room. This room has continuity. This room is the same as last year. He had 1 interception, 35 total tackles, and 1 TFL last year, starting only 4 games. A pretty solid stat line. We turned the film on. He was definitely one of our better, more consistent rookies last year, I would say. Like if you look at all the rookies and how consistent they were last year when they played. Obviously, JT, for example, is probably the most consistent rookie, but he did not play a lot because of his injury. I would say him and Shaw were definitely the most consistent rookies we had last year. He was very underrated last year. Obviously, as a corner, he was a rookie. He got picked on last year because teams were allowed to pick on him because no team wanted to go after JC, so they were able to pick on him and Mike Jackson all year long as a rookie. And when you're learning, it's hard in the NFL, man. It's hard. So I don't really cut flack on him. He made a lot of big plays last year for us. A lot of big tackles. That interception he had was a very big interception for us. So as a rookie, solid season. But what does he have to do in year 2, obviously? As I mentioned, honestly, Shaw needs to be the second best corner in this room this upcoming season. If we really want to take this defense to the next level and not be below average anymore, specifically this room, he needs to be better than Mike Jackson in 2025, and I think he can be. I think he has the athleticism. I think he has everything to be a good corner in the league and honestly be better than Mike Jackson this upcoming season. But I think if he's not better than Mike Jackson, he needs to be at least a very consistent corner week to week every single Sunday, which I think he can do as well. And obviously now, him being in year 2, I'm assuming David Rivera is going to use him more. He started 4 games, but he's probably going to start every game that he plays because we need him to. He's our starting nickel. So you might see a big leap from Shaw Smith-Wade. He's one of my breakout players for this upcoming season. Him and JT, for me, are my breakout players for the Panthers in 2025, kind of like a spoiler, who I think are going to be breakout players for this team. I think it's going to be Shaw and JT because Shaw needs to be that breakout player. He needs to be. If he's not good, he's inconsistent. This corner room is going to be down bad all year long. It's not going to be good. So he needs to be that all season long, consistent. Take that leap as a corner. But I think he can do it. Obviously, I think he can do it. There's a lot of great slot receivers in the league. He's going to be tested every single Sunday, but I'm very excited for it, and I think he can do it. One of my final predictions, okay, in a 17-game sample size, I think he's going to start all 17 games if he plays them. So what are my predictions for Shaw if he plays a 17-game sample size this upcoming season? I'm going to say 65 tackles because, as y'all know, a slot corner, you're really more into the action. You're a slot corner. You're in the middle of the field more. You're able to get more tackles, obviously, and you can be more versatile as a slot corner. So I think 65 tackles is fair for Shaw. It's a lot of tackles. It's pretty much JC's most tackles he has in the season. I think he can hit that. Tackles for loss, I think he can have one or two as well. We might use him because of the speed he does have on more corner blitzes. We can see that more this season. And I think he could have 2 picks. I really think he's going to take that leap, man. 2 interceptions for Shaw this year. And they're going to be big, impactful interceptions as well. Late game situations. That's my 2025 prediction for Shaw. 65 tackles, 2 interceptions, and 2 TFLs for Shaw in 2025. Overall, bringing this room together again, this is one of the most important positions this upcoming season because if this room can tap in and be consistent week to week, you make this defense go from below average, as I think it is right now, to average. Because you have a good pass rush, I think, especially on the interior with Derek Brown coming back, Tershawn Wharton. If you can have good corners, you can force more turnovers. You can just do a lot more, right? You don't have to worry about the linebackers being so bad this upcoming season if your cornerback room is consistent and you have that leap from Shaw Smith-Wade and Mike Jackson this upcoming season. But so that's where I have this position ranked this upcoming season in 2025 for the Panthers is 6th out of 9 at the moment. I think there's a lot of room for improvement. I think this position has potential to make this team better, this defense better. You have one of the best corners in the league, but at the end of the day, if you want to go from below average to average, I think this room needs to take that leap, and I think it can. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications because I'm going to be dropping consistent content like this. And with that being said, I'll see you guys next video. Peace.